Yeah. We're on. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Sean. Good evening and welcome to the Pink. That's a great start. Welcome to the PinkUn Show, our dedicated Norwich City shenanigans that is still to be claimed by an international football authority, but we are still open to offers. I'm Michael Bailey. We are here at the wonderful Woolpack Public House in the centre of Norwich, live, and over the next 30 minutes or so, we will bring you all the key Canaries discussion points from City's Reading success, look ahead to what the international break means for our Canary stars, and get all the nitty-gritty from our two guests tonight, who I'm delighted to say are, at the second time of asking, without snow getting in the way, BBC Radio Norfolk's dynamic duo of commentator and sports editor Chris Goreham and Canary call host Rob Butler.
Just need a bit more milk in my coffee, so Wes, help me out.
I hope she's all right after that.
It's a bit brown, but
I think she needs to lay down after that.
Bless her.
We'll see if you can ring a bell later. Gents, thank you so much for coming in.
No problem.
What a pleasure. How are you both?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, we're good, thank you. We've obviously got international football fever, because it's always very exciting when the club football stops and you get to watch England play, isn't it?
Yes.
It's always really exciting, so we're really looking forward to it. When are the England games?
I might ask you that later because I don't know.
Oh, hang on, it's on the board up there. Friday the 23rd of March. Netherlands v England.
Yeah.
So Italy must be next week then.
Yes, indeed. Get yourself down to the Woolpack to watch all that action. It's lovely to have you on here at the same time. I think this is the first time we've had it like that, so that's good. Did it take much diary organising?
Not really, no. We quite like doing things together, believe it or not, but it's nice to be here. It's a nice pub, the Woolpack. Other pubs are available, of course, just doing the BBC thing there. But
like ingrained in your brains.
Yeah, and it's great to meet Wes Moolahan as well, one of my favourite stuffed animals in the world, alongside BC Bear. Speaking of which, I've got to wish my dad happy birthday, haven't I? 'Cause it's his birthday. So if he won't be watching, Steve, but you know, he usually does, but because I'm on, he won't. So happy birthday. I don't know, he's well into his 70s now.
Does Wes Moolahan do waves like BC used to?
Only if Rob manipulates it, so I'll let Rob figure that one out.
Yeah.
Won't go into that again. Yeah, no idea. Steve, did you say?
Steve.
Happy birthday, Steve.
Steve
Butler, is it? Oh, phew. Right, we are live on PinkUn.com and the PinkUn Facebook page. We want to hear from you too, of course, tonight, be it on Josh's improvement, sack Stam, or what's keeping you going for the rest of the season. Get your questions, comments and banters through to us here down the pub, especially for our two guests. Please ask them anything you want and then we'll see how they react to it. All you need to do is post your words through to on the Facebook page below the feed of the show, and they will ping right through to my phone, and there are a few popping through already as we go. Now, with Wesley Moolahan fully deflated of her milk and primed for a key task tonight.
Female, isn't it?
That's it. Let's kick off with this week's headlines, Rob.
Oh yeah, sorry, my bit.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you'll get better at it. 3 and Freezy. City rediscover their winning feeling, but it was going to take more than that to warm the paying punters inside Carrow Road. Yap, damn! Reading's defeat signals the end for Stam. One Twitter account already has Nelson Oliveira down as the Royals' new player manager. We only think they are slightly joking. Oh, you see, there you go. The most pointless vote in history? City Open Player of the Season poll to find Barry Butler Memorial Trophy winner. I'd just give it to Madders now. Beautiful. The gun's been fired, not literally. Angus is still here, but we're starting to see the leaks over what comes next for the City number one. It will be done early in the summer, and there are lots of factors to play out yet. And finally, good luck, boys. 9 Canaries are out and about over the international break, staking their claims for either this summer or the next qualifying campaign. And here's to Jamal Lewis, who is off on his first senior Northern Ireland adventure. Oh, one more ring, Rob. That is wonderfully done. Thank you so much. We're going to get straight into it, gents, if we may. Been a lot of complaints about the football at Carrow Road over the course of the season. So, did you enjoy Saturday?
Go on, Chris.
You want me to start? Yes, I did. I always enjoy Norwich winning games. I thought Reading were awful. On the breakfast programme on Radio Norfolk last Friday, I was on with Nick Conrad, and we were talking about the previous time that Norwich and Reading had played each other at Carrow Road, and that Norwich had won it 7-1. And I said on air, if Norwich won 7-1 again, I would give him £5 of my own money. When it got to 3-1 before half-time, I was really starting to worry, because I thought Reading, in the first half in particular, were as bad as they had been last season. season, and I wasn't at all surprised to hear the news about Yapstam today. So yeah, great to see Norwich scoring 3 goals in front of the Barclay, who've been desperately shortchanged this season, Barclay and season ticket holders. Yes, a little bit worrying that it wasn't more comfortable than 3-2, but there are games like that this season that we've drawn, so we're grateful for a win. I know it's too little too late, but I'm never going to be tired of seeing Norwich City win a game of football.
Exactly. It'd be nice if they did it a bit more straightforward, at least once this season.
Yeah, but that's just the way it is with Norwich. It's typical Norwich, isn't it? We don't ever do things easily, and we certainly don't do things easily under Daniel Farker. It's always a bit touch and go, but same as Chris, we made a big thing, well, I say a big thing, we put out a stat, didn't we, before the game, just saying that there's only, 5 goals in the Barclay before Saturday, and lo and behold, they kind of did us a favour and kind of proved the point of how much people want to see goals at the Barclay. We went out afterwards on Canary and I spoke to some fans that had been in the Barclay, and they're all delighted, because it's little things like that you have to worry about now, because we're not going to get in the playoffs. We're not going to even do anything really. It's kind of going to just be a mid-table end to the season. I think little things like that is what football's all about. It's about fans in the Barclay and seeing goals, and now it is about the player of the season, the Barry Butler Memorial Trophy. We have to call it its proper name. That's what people are worried about now, and that's just, it's a shame it's come to this, but it could be worse. We could be sort of struggling against relegation. We're not going to be doing that, and it's kind of let's wait and see for next season now.
Well, yeah, you look at where Reading are, and we'll come on to that in a bit. You got to speak to Josh Murphy after the game. Chris, what did you make of what he had to say? Because I thought he was quite strident in terms of his position and how that's affected his recent form. Because, Josh was excellent on Saturday, I thought.
Yeah, and there have been games this season where he's been equally good. And Norwich are a team that have lacked pace going forward. They've been a bit ponderous at times this season. That they've lacked a real constant, creative, consistent threat. And all season we've been saying that when you lack pace, when you lack that consistency, that consistent attempt to create things, there is a position in that team nailed on for Josh Murphy to take with both hands. It's there for him. He hasn't quite done it this season. I don't think it's all his fault, because the way the season started, understandably, and we've mentioned that Millwall defeat so often, Daniel Farker did tighten things up at the back, and he's now got a real dilemma where Norwich look a lot better with 3 central defenders defensively, but they look a lot better going forward with 2 wingers, and you can't have both the 3 central defenders and the 2 wingers on the pitch at the same time. So it means in some games when Daniel Farker feels Norwich have to be strong defensively, Murphy's either not going to play or he's going to play up front, which clearly isn't his best position. So to me, it's just taking some getting used to the fact that he's now played 100 games and he's not young Josh Murphy anymore. That's the thing that makes me feel old, that he's now 100 games, an established first teamer.
Part of the furniture, 23.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of Josh Murphy, and I think even more so I want him to do well, because he's one of our own, in inverted commas, and he's always been great when we spoke to him. He's very humble as well, and we've spoken to Cameron McGeehan, who's been a guest on our show, and he's one of his best mates, and he always says Josh is someone who really cares about what people think, and I think that's a good thing, because not all footballers are like that. He's worried about what people are saying on the phone in, or what fans are saying afterwards, what you're saying in the papers and what have you, and I think that says a lot about the man. He wants to impress, and he wants to do a good job for the club, and I think fans perhaps been a little bit harsh with him because he hasn't had the best season, but he, as Chris said, he's still our best option for that position. And as Chris put in his column this week, which was in your paper, I think he's brought a lot out of Onel Hernandez as well. I really like him. I really like the look of him. I think he seems to have a great attitude. He can defend. He gets forward. He's got a trick. So I think it's almost like you've gone back to the wingers. It's almost like having Jacob and Josh back. I think it was a good point he made. It's that wingers, and how many times does Darren Eady, our old friend, say on the radio, we want wingers, we want out and out wingers.
Win the crosses.
Most fans love wingers, don't they? I do. I love seeing wingers putting the ball in there. But we saw it, in the last few games. Norwich do dwell too much on the ball on those wide positions. Get it in the box, get it in there, and maybe that will invite the likes of Oliveira and Sabreni to get on the end of it. But I think it needs a revamp up front, and next season hopefully we will have that striker who's just happy to put his head in.
I think it'll be really interesting what happens in terms of the striking options come next season. Let's have a quick look at some quick early questions. Darryl Allen's been in touch. Busy week for Chris and Rob, he says. They're also both involved in Never Mind the Danger on Thursday night and the scrimmage on Thursday night. So Darryl's done a good job of getting the plug in there for you both.
Plug, yes.
Thanks, Darryl. I know you'll be there
at the Open in Norwich tomorrow night. If you've never been, it's great. It's a bit like Question of Sport, but there's slightly more to it than that, with the team captains Grant Holt and Russell Martin. Holt and Martin together at the same time. What more could you want? And the two of them sing. So I get to host it. Rob is on one of the teams. I don't know if we're allowed to say which one, but you're a contestant tomorrow for the first time, aren't you? He's making his debut tomorrow.
Nervous?
Not really,
I
because
can't imagine you getting nervous about anything, to be honest.
yeah, it's just fun, isn't it? I mean, it's if it was talking about something I didn't know anything about, and some would argue I don't know much about football, then it would be a worry. But no, and our friend Adam Leventhal, he's done a good thing, and he's given away books. If the first 250 get there, who get there, get a free book. Can't argue with that.
I can't argue. That's enough plugging.
Plugging it.
Yeah. You're the quiz master though, Chris. So that's an important job.
Well, yes, I am. So I can't tell you too much. But there'll be, as we always say on these things, there'll be 1 or 2 surprises for people going along tomorrow.
Yeah, well done. Lorne last gasps my bird. I'm sure Lorne's name changes every time I see him on here. It's great. Well, it could be. I think we should look at the all-round performance of a player and how much dedication he gives. Not just that they have scored goals. Christoph Zimmermann should be the player of the season because he's given his heart and soul to the club and put his body on the line. We will get onto that conversation in a moment. Alan Monument says hello. Alan, hello. You can take in my video verdict, plus the post-match reactions of my colleagues, Paddy Davitt and Dave Freezer. They're all over PinkUn.com, where you'll also find the thoughts of Daniel Farker and Josh Murphy. In the meantime, here is some of what the City chief and City forward had to say after Saturday's game.
So in general, we had in many of the last games just draws because we missed so many chances right now. After this win, we can face a little bit more the longer term, and that is like in the last 17 games. Just 2 losses, 1 loss under pretty strange circumstances at Hull. And 1 loss after 1 to 20 minutes against Chelsea, against Sheffield United at home. And I think in general, so 2 losses just in 70 games is a proof that we are heading totally in the right direction. This performance today and a well-deserved win against a good side like Reading is a proof we're heading in the right direction. Sadly, we had too many draws in the recent weeks, so otherwise we could have easily been there in an even better position. But at least I'm pretty pleased with this performance today, with this result, and I think it was important for us.
Has it felt like, how's the best way to put it, like the confidence has come back in the last game and a half? Because that's how it's looked.
No, the confidence has always been there. It's just where I'm playing on the pitch. Like when I'm playing my normal game and doing the things that I like doing, then you can see I can get past people like 8-9 times out of 10. So no, it's good just be getting on the ball because I'm just hungry to get past people, get the ball in the box, get goals and get assists.
Can I just ask why Jaap isn't here tonight?
Yeah, I did it a couple of times before after a game. So Jaap asked me after the game. I didn't ask why. So he asked me to do the press. So that's why. Yeah.
One thing, the Reading fans didn't seem to be too happy when Kelly was taken off. I mean,
yes,
can you explain that one? Or?
No, I can explain that. I can understand it because Liam Kelly played really well. Yeah. He played really well. Liam Kelly had the last couple of weeks a couple of serious injuries. Mm-hmm. So after an hour he had another one, so he had to get off. Yeah. So he had to get off. So
you can't tell your fans that, can you?
No.
At this point, I'd like to say a big thank you to the capital Canaries, who invited me along to one of their meetings last night. It was great fun, and hopefully we'll do a PinkUn show live from the old Red Lion in Angel next season, if we can manage to do that. But the theme of expectation kept popping up, so I was going to ask these guys about
London
that.
Yesterday.
I did.
What's it like?
Smoky. Yeah. It was good fun though. It's nice to be back.
Did you do that? We always have a joke. Whenever we go on the train to London, or whenever you get to the bottom of the M11, Norfolk people always say, "Oh, I couldn't do this every day." So,
true.
Did you?
We always say it. I'm sure Judy Trivet once said it on a tube we were with. I couldn't do this every day.
So did you say it's a traditional thing? If you're a proper Norfolk person, that's what you say.
Well, I'm probably not. I mean, I did used to do it every day, pretty much. Well, not from Norwich, obviously, but that was good fun. It was lovely. They're great guys. It was good fun.
Pub. I've been there many times. Yeah.
And the expectation did come up with Norwich, so I'm kind of curious as to what your guys have in terms of expectation for Norwich next year, because I think a lot of fans really want them to push on, and some are a bit more realistic's maybe not the right word, but they feel that it's going to be hard to challenge next year.
It'll definitely be hard, but I think Norwich fans deserve a team pushing for playoffs. Whether, I look at it 2 different ways. Obviously, we're not stupid. Norwich fans understand the financial situation the club are in. But whether that's acceptable or not is a different thing. That's the situation we're in, and you can't just go out and suddenly find 100 million. But I think Norwich fans deserve a team pushing for the promotion, whether it be the playoffs or automatically. So how we get from that to there is a different matter. But Personally, I don't think we necessarily will be, which is a bit of a worry. I think there's a lot of work to be done. I think Webber and Farker and the powers that be have made a good start, definitely. They've cleared out a lot of dead wood. There's still players that need to be moved on, but the ones they've brought in, on the whole, have been decent. I think Onel Hernandez is a good example of someone who actually, he's a new one and he's good. Sabreni, jury's still out, but he had a better game at home. Zimmerman, brilliant. Get another 10 like him in different positions, you'll be laughing because his attitude's unbelievable and he's a good player. But I think, we were talking about it on the way to wherever we were going the other day. If you look at it a year from now, if Norwich are where they are now, a year from now, then I think fans would quite rightly be upset and annoyed. But on the same token, with the financial constraints, that's kind of where we are.
I think the hard bit is they're being charged so much for their season tickets. That's the bit where if it was a little bit less, maybe the expectation would be dampened down a little bit too.
Yeah, it's healthy to have expectation in a way. If you're supporting a team that you are expecting to finish mid-table every season, then that's a worry, isn't it? I think we just don't know what next season's going to be like. The guarantees are that the Championship is always blooming hard. No matter what season it's been, all the years that Norwich have been in the Championship since the Nigel Worthington days, it's always blooming hard. It's a real slog at times. But the other thing we know about the Championship is it's not necessarily who's got the most money that goes up. There's always a team, it's probably Cardiff this year, who you think, I didn't see that coming, and now they look a good bet for automatic promotion. So, I think realistically, Norwich finished 8th last season. Out of that squad, you've taken Johnny Howson, Jacob Murphy, two of the better players from last season. You've taken John Ruddy, Ryan Bennett, some of the real experience. Since then, Pritchard's gone. So the thing that I've had in the back of my mind all this season is if it had been Brentford or Nottingham Forest who'd finished 8th in the Championship last season and then lost that number of experienced players, we'd all have said, well, they won't do the same this season. So why did we ever think Norwich City were capable of doing better than that? I think Norwich City are probably where I hoped they'd mount a playoff push, but they're probably realistically where I thought they would be. Can they kick on from here? It's the great unknown. What's going to happen over the summer? There's the James Madison factor. You've mentioned Angus Gunn already. It feels like it's going to be another... Even if Daniel Farker is starting to get things heading in the right direction now and you're seeing some promising signs, it still feels like we're going to have another churn over the summer and we may be starting all over again with several more new players.
Interesting point. Callum Davison asks, if we are being honest and the club sell Madison and Gunn goes back to Manchester City, will we be back to square one again?
Yeah, to a certain extent. It depends who they bring in. But I don't really think... I've not got a massive feeling that Madison's going to go unless... He has to go unless it's a financial constraint that means he has to go. I don't think. We ran an interview last week that he did with BBC about the fact that he's happy, he wants to play football, but there's only so many times he can say that. All players say that. No one comes out and says I don't want to play for Norwich City or the club. Very rarely does that happen. I just think, and I said it last week on the scrimmage, it might be that we have to sell him, which is a worry because there's no planet in any football fan's mind where they think, well, I'm happy that one of my best players has gone. You're allowed to be annoyed. I just think with what Chris was saying, I agree with most of it, but it's important that fans also push for that success. It's important that fans don't just necessarily sit and accept and go, well, that's just the way it is, that's what the powers that be are telling us. It's important sometimes for fans to question it, and I think they do, and I think, to be fair, Stuart Webber, for example, will come out and give you honest answers. So I think if he's coming out and telling you why something's happening, fair play to him, because we have had regimes before that kept it quiet.
And then other clubs that do as well.
I'll just make a quick point on Madison. I think he's been so good this season. It's almost got to the point where it's not even really a do Norwich need to sell him. It's not even a financial argument. He's been that good. It's can you even stand in his way? You don't get it that often when it gets to this point with a player, but it does happen to all clubs. Liverpool had it with Coutinho. Even clubs of that size that they felt they couldn't stand in his way because Barcelona came calling. So if Norwich do get an offer in the summer that James Madison feels he's going to be playing first team football in the Premier League every week, financially or not, it's going to be really difficult to stand in that player's way. So he's going to go at some point. I've really enjoyed seeing him while he's been playing for Norwich City. I just hope that maybe the best that we can hope for is that he does get a move to a Tottenham and they think that he's better off for the season of first team football and we get him loaned back. That's not any inside information, it's just what I hope might happen, and that might be our best chance of seeing him back at Norwich next season, because the one thing that I'm clinging to is he clearly wants to be playing first team football. Harrison Reed said the same thing this season. These boys have now got used to playing first-team football. They don't want to be sat on the bench anywhere next season.
So Angus won't either, then, hopefully.
Totally, yeah, too true. That'd be good. Ian Gabelli, he says, I'm here, which I don't know if you hear it. Say hello, Ian, if you're here. But if you're here, that's good too. Rachel McLeod says, in a pub and no alcoholic beverages being drunk, it's a travesty, Rob.
Rachel, I know you, and I was at the quiz that we recently did for the CSF, and she bid about, well, I can't remember, Rachel, tell us, it must have been about 200 quid for a hamper full of booze. And her eyes lit up, and her poor husband had to come and lift it, take it home for her. So Rachel, we're just sticking to the coffee tonight, because Chris, you're doing the breakfast show in the morning, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I've got to drive home.
I'll just, 2 words, Irish coffee. Things aren't always what they seem.
But that isn't an Irish coffee, is it?
No, it's not.
It's a cappuccino, but that's fine. Elliot Waterford, how was the Reading player not sent off after the first 15-odd seconds, given Close's Instagram post? Ridiculous decision, ridiculous.
Yeah, nothing to add.
It looks very painful. It looks very painful. And what else have we go? Alan Monument, not a criticism of Madders, but does too much of our play go through him, making us too predictable? We'll let you sit on that one, Alan. We may well come back to it in a moment. International... That's not yours. Sorry, no, not true. Can't afford chips. You've got a cappuccino.
He did buy us a coffee, ladies and gentlemen. He's not as tight as he looks.
No. Thanks, Rob. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah. Cartoon characters where they get the whiff of the... It's like, off you go. Yeah. Anyway,
we'll see you later. International break. Have you got any handle on anything that's happening over the international break in terms of Norwich's players?
Yes, because we have to for our job.
Yes, Rob.
God, put me on the pressure.
This is just reminding me of how our job changes depending on
Botswana.
I am going to talk about Botswana. How our job changes depending on who Norwich have got at the time. And there was a time when we had the great Demercy and Bakani playing up front, where we had to try and work out what DR Congo were up to at international level. And African football, I don't think I'm being too controversial, it's not always the easiest organisation to find your way around who's playing when. And they had was it a friendly or a qualifier? But they had a game on, didn't they? And we were trying to work out what the time was in various countries, trying to work out if we were missing games or not. So the one good thing about being outside the Premier League is that you've got players who play for countries where at least you know what the time is and when the game's going to be.
It's a good job that Ebru Adams turned down his Gambia call so that he could play in the National League.
Adam Iders played this afternoon. Was that the under-17s? And he scored. Is it a penalty, I think?
Oh, was it? I don't know.
Yeah, they won 3-0 under-17s for Ireland. So we've got Madders and Gunny playing for the England under-21s.
Harry Winks has pulled out through injury, so maybe more time for Madders there.
Good point. Yeah, see, it's on there. And I think one of them's a qualifier for them, and one of them's just a friendly. And obviously we've got Scotland's a big one, isn't it? We've got Russ Naismith.
He pulled out, back injury.
Pulled out. He's busy tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So Russ is out.
That's not why he's pulled out.
Naismith. Well, leave it there. Naismith's obviously there, isn't he? He's back in the squad. No, he's not, is he? No. So we've definitely got Hanley, and of course, don't forget Kenny McLean.
There's a lot of stuff on the PinkUn from him at the moment. He's a man of the moment. Well, that's good stuff, Rob. Well done. Happy with that.
We missed anyone? Marley Watkins at Wales. Jamal at Northern Ireland. They're playing against South Korea on Saturday. 2:00 kickoff. Yeah.
I originally thought Marley Watkins was just heading over to China for a holiday, but they are playing
China Cup. That's a big tournament. Uruguay there as well.
China Cup. Yeah, classic. Player of the season voting was the other thing. We did touch on it. Madison's going to win it, yes.
100%, and if he doesn't, it's a travesty. But I will say, and I did spot this, and I'm not on a serious note, I think the club took a bit of clog for the fact that it's now sponsored, but I don't think that's the first season they've done it.
It's been a few years.
But I do agree with some people who are saying it, and they did actually, to be fair to the club, they did put another tweet out saying the Barry Butler Memorial. I think it's important, and people were right to call them up on that it is called the Barry Butler Memorial Trophy, because that's what growing up we all know it as. But we know that unfortunately things have to be sponsored now. It's a shame, but that's modern football.
Well, I'm not getting the engraver to put James Madison's name on it just yet, because I think Norwich City supporters are a contrary bunch. They are. If you think back to 2004, the year that Norwich City got promoted under Nigel Worthington, and Darren Huckabee came in and took us up. Without him, we wouldn't have got promoted. Who got player of the season that year? Craig Fleming. That's nothing against Craig Fleming. I think he had a terrific season, but it was that Huckabee was the difference that season. Everyone thinks it now. Everyone thought it at the time, but Norwich fans were a bit like, we'll show you. So don't be surprised if James Madison's getting the runners-up trophy.
There's a screen grab on Twitter of Stephen Naismith getting a vote. So and they have got
the Carlo Nash thing a few years ago. Don't do that, kid. kids. Come on, that's silly. That's just
Poor
silly.
James.
Yeah, that. No, joking aside, that actually does. It sort of besmirches the name of a great trophy, and that really annoyed me when that happened.
But last year, Wes Moolahan won it, and he wasn't Norwich's best player last season, but it was almost a lifetime achievement award, wasn't it? Because nobody had really stood out, singly for Norwich last year. So there was a bit of a movement. Oh, Wes needs to win it at some point, so he got it last year like that. So
it's like when Gibbs won Sports Personality of the Year, isn't it? It's like sentimental.
Well, we're going to assume the Norwich fans will do the right thing and give it to James Madison, which is what should happen because he's 100% earned it this year. Who gets P2 and 3? P2, P3.
P2 Formula One. That's a good question, isn't it? I probably change my opinion on that each week, don't I?
Yeah.
It all depends. When you're voting for Player of the Season, it all depends. Again, it comes down to expectations, doesn't it? And someone like Christoph Zimmermann, who arrived from the German 4th Division, has performed a lot better than probably any of us imagined. He's become a much better player. I think Grant Hanley will probably, because his best form has been recently. He wasn't in the team at the start of the season. I think there'll be a good vote for Hanley because he's got it recently. His best form has been recently.
I think I would go P2, as you say. I'll go Angus Gunn.
Oh yeah,
because it's more. It's almost. He's been brilliant, but it's sentimental as well. I mean, we said it when he first signed. Just seeing the name Gunn for people of our age, seeing the name Gunn on a team sheet for Norwich makes you all go misty-eyed. And I think he's been exceptional. He made some brilliant saves on Saturday that's sort of been overlooked a little bit because there was a few goals. But yeah, I think Angus number 2. But I'd say Hanley's definitely up there as well, and Zimmermann, because not necessarily Zimmermann's made the odd mistake, but he's just such a great bloke, and that's part of. I think it is there's a bit of personality involved as well, isn't there?
I wonder if there might be a vote for Jamal Lewis as well, because again, in a season where James Madison has been the standout. You can throw a blanket over the rest. That they've all had some great spells in the season, and some spells where they've not been in the team or they've been injured. So you look at. I think had he been fitter for longer, someone like Tom Tribal was becoming a massive crowd favourite, but he's had injury problems.
But if Jamal's in the top 3, I wouldn't be disappointed.
No,
simply for the lad, he's had the breakthrough season. He's going to make his international debut.
You could make a case for 6 or 7 other players to be in the top 3, and I wouldn't have a problem with any of them.
The only person that I think does deserve an honourable mention is Tim Closer, because I think the way he's dug in, and he took 2 whacks on Saturday and played on. He's done a lot of that this year for all the criticism he got last year. I think he's made real improvement. He's the only one I can
switch alone. Come on, the
moment of the season, arguably, and the cross at Chelsea, 2 of the moments of the season.
Closer, everybody. Forget Madison.
Yeah, let's not go that far. Chris was quite right, and Rob. P2 and P3 is a reference to F1. The Norwich City Community Sports Foundation has a big kart day on Saturday. It's the karting day at Ella Park. It's raising money for the CSF's Build the Nest campaign. My Formula One podcast, the NRF1 podcast, quick plug, has a team that's ready to. Thanks, Rob. Has a team that's ready to race, including myself. I'm proper giddy excited about it, and probably far more excited about that than other things I should be, like football and what have you. There may still be time to get involved if you wish to get a team in. I don't exactly know. Or you can probably pop along to Ella Park and watch me race against Jake Humphrey's team. And I might run them all off the road.
You'll beat him, Michael. Don't worry about that.
I didn't know we were going down a Formula One wormhole. Can we talk a bit more about Wales in the China Cup?
Yeah.
I'm suddenly England v Italy won the lot. Suddenly excited about that now. Formula One starts this weekend.
Yeah, that's it. It does start this weekend in Australia. Speedway soon too, but let's move that on.
BBC Radio Norfolk, we always cover it.
You're doing on top form, Rob. Stephen Taylor, thanks for your questions. Keep them coming in. I'll rattle through as many as possible, I promise. I thought Dennis Shrabini looked much better this weekend. Quick word?
Yeah, he did, but I mean, people have a go at me because it's kind of like, well, he didn't play very well. So, get behind him, But if I'm only saying what I see, and I don't think he looks what we need at the minute. But there's obviously a player there. He's got a lovely first touch. He's got an eye for a pass, but the jury's out for me. But I mean, I wrote off Nelson Oliveira. I was probably right in the end. But there we go.
Paul Ellis says, remember that we had Harry Kane and we could not give him the support to score for us. So we need to give the striker the supply to be able to score. Indeed. Nick Smith, why isn't any of the iconic Derby match commentary included in the match day introduction? I don't know. That's one of those questions I should have read first before I said it.
We did discuss sort of changing it, didn't we? Oh dear, we shouldn't give these things away, should we?
No, it's not at the moment.
It might be though. He's too modest. He's like, oh, that's all right. And we've obviously got to have Roy in it, which because Roy's the father of all the football coverage, and he's just a bit modest. He's like, well, it weren't that good.
Well, do you know, I interviewed Simeon Jackson yesterday.
You did?
Yeah. And I'm standing in on the breakfast show at the moment on Radio Norfolk, and they said, right, coming in at 10 to 7 in the morning, Simeon Jackson's coming in. I thought, straighten the tie if I wore a tie. And it turns out there's a Green Party councillor in the city called Simeon Jackson. And when he walked in, I tried very hard not to go, oh, No, not that one. But no, he's a lovely fella. But he's not that Simeon Jackson.
Well, that's a shame. But there we go. Never mind.
Did he put on a Canadian accent? Do you remember when he used to? It was a bit weird, wasn't it?
Well, there was when you interviewed Simeon Jackson, who played for Canada. He spoke with a Canadian accent. Who was it? One of his teammates told us, and I don't know whether we were being led a merry dance or not.
Elliot Bennett or someone like that.
Somebody told us that he didn't talk like that around the dressing room.
I think it was Elliot Bennett.
And I don't know. We've got no way of knowing.
He's obviously a London boy, but he just put that accent on to anyway.
So probably I don't know if it's true.
Good luck with the Green Party.
Let's assume it is. Yeah, good luck with the Green Party. Other parties are available. That's what we do, isn't it? I actually, when I was at the Capital Canaries last night, got given a T-shirt by my best mate of the commentary from BBC Radio Suffolk of the Equalizer, which is quite iconic. No comment. Are we not allowed to talk about that? Should I have asked you before we went on air?
I'll say what I think, and I think he agrees. Bren is a friend of ours, and a colleague, and we're not. I don't want to get all serious, but I just know, and this is me thinking about him. He might say something once when Ipswich score, and we would feel really bad if they put it on a T-shirt. So I feel sorry for Brenner. He's a brilliant commentator, but I can understand people seeing the fun side of it. And of course,
it's not me, so I can't comment. But to me, it's a huge compliment because I've met him a couple of times. But it's not really. But as a commentator, you're there to give colour to a moment, and Brenner, the way he summed that moment up, that's exactly why it's so good.
I would say it was a very good piece of local radio commentary because everybody listening to him is an Ipswich supporter. You would think 99.9% are during the game are Ipswich fans, and he only reflected what they were all thinking at the time. He wasn't saying that for Norwich City fans to hear it later on, but thanks to the wonders of the internet, where you can broadcast live from a pub in Norwich, you can also find out what's been going on the radio as far away as Suffolk. So it did go viral amongst Norwich City supporters. I wasn't surprised, but yeah, we're always a bit careful what we say about Ipswich because we know at some point the boot's going to be on the other foot.
And it has been in the past.
Exactly. It's like when before a game, and you'll get this, you tweet something about the opposition, say, "Oh, come on, we can do these today," and then they beat you, and you do get the odd little bite from the opposition, and you think, "Oh, I shouldn't have said." So that's where Rob Butler's reined it in over the last 6 years. And I know, you just don't want it because you've lost, and you get people tweeting you. So we've all had it. We've all had it.
And as I said, I would underline. I thought it was wonderful. It was a brilliant piece of commentary for what it did. Ian Honeyman, let's have a look at some more questions. Here we go. Because we will still have a significant number of immovable high earners like Naismith, Jarvis, Russell Martin on the payroll next season. Is it possible that we won't have the funds to sign the players to challenge until the following season?
We don't know. We don't know if they will be on the payroll. I mean, I assume Russell Martin will want to play football next season, and if he's not part of Farker's plans and it goes well, which it has so far at Rangers, that Rangers would take him. And that'd be a brilliant move for him because, he's a Scottish international. He's back in the Scotland squad despite removing himself from injury, but he is back in the reckoning with Alec McLeish. So, yeah, I mean, and same with Naismith. They don't want to just sit here they're honest professionals. So I think, and Jarvis as well. Poor old Matt Jarvis, we saw what happened. He's hopefully going to be okay, but I don't think necessarily going to be here next season, so I think that would free up money, but we don't know. We just really don't know.
Barry Newman says Kenny McLean and Tom Tybalt to be the centre midfield partnership next season. Nick Smith says international break brackets yawn. So he's a fan. But then he does also say, Chris, don't say we can't stand in a player's way. It's usually a precursor to selling them at a cut price.
I didn't say anything about it being a cut price. I just think that he's that good that at some point a Premier League club will come calling. He'll want to go. I think he's got his head screwed on. I don't think he'll go for the sake of going. I think it would have to be the right move for him. And yeah, sometimes you just.
Well, what Chris is saying is if Madison isn't here next season, he will be.
So I absolutely will be. Yeah.
Going to take a sip of his coffee at that point. David Powell says vote Wes for Player of the Season like everyone did last year. We can do if you want. Why not?
We can't do that. We've given Wes his sentimental one, and we all love Wes, but he's done nothing this season. I know it's like, close your ears, but it's like, the point is that Wes isn't the player he was. He's been an absolute legend for this football club, but he's not the player he was. And he
might be the one man who would quite willingly drive James Madison to another club because I think I imagined at the start of the season it probably would be a bit of Madison and a bit of Moolahan behind the striker, with one being the heir to the other's throne. And actually, Madison's made himself completely undroppable, and that's meant that we've barely seen Wes Moolahan this season.
And in many ways, we've seen Maurice Leitner when he was fit, playing in a slightly different position to what he probably would have been.
Great player he's turning out to be. Well, great's a bit strong. I am known to over-exaggerate, but he definitely looks a brilliant footballer.
I thought that until he missed that chance against Bolton.
Yeah, that was.
And then I thought, hang on.
So did a lot of his teammates, I think. Lee John Clark, he says Angus, which I guess is a vote for player of the season, unless he's having a beef burger. Will Starling, he says Madison, Hanley, Gunn. If we had Hernandez all season, he would be in there.
Madison Hanley Gunn sounds like one of these teen American pop stars, like mates with Taylor Swift.
I like Hernandez. Yeah, I'm with him on Hernandez. I'm becoming a big fan of his. He's going to be my little pet person I love. I think I really like him.
One more, Carl Mitchelson. Carl Mitchelson says, has to be Madison. Angus has been outstanding, as well as Hanley. We will get more of your questions. Keep them rolling in. We've got plenty. But I think I'll admit that although this isn't quite what the Farker, which is probably the greatest name of any quiz ever, this is still mildly related to that, as Chris and Rob take on Flip the Bird. Yeah, there's a sting playing, and we're probably on still. Thanks, Sean. Doing a grand job, Sean. He's a one-man band. He's doing awesome work. Now, we've got stuff on, haven't we? Last time out, saw poor old Jim Van Wyk and Dan O'Hagan shuddering in the freezing cold, purely to satisfy my own sinkhole curiosity. It was also the first game undertaken in the outside. The wind played havoc, and in the end, Dan O'Hagan nudged his previous score up by half a beer mat, if that's even possible, while Jim registered a more than respectable 4. Steve Cook remains our runaway leader with a drug test inducing 12. So 12 in half a minute. So yeah, apparently grew up in a pub, as did Greg Downs. He did quite well as well. It is now time for the Battle of the Beeb, the Canary Call Carnage, the scrimmage skirmish. Chris and Rob, you have 30 seconds to flip the largest pile of PinkUn beer mats you can muster in one hand. The winner gets 30 seconds.
Or both together.
No, go for it. Go for your life. Go for your life. No, both of you at the same time. The winner gets a much prized selfie with Wesley Moolahan and will forever be deemed more Robert Flick than Flicky Van Volswinkel. Thank you. Are you ready with the timer, Sean? Looks so well prepared. Good man. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Go. And now go, gents. Go, start. Go. Normally when you say go, it means to start. Yeah, if you catch it, keep going. Rob looks like he's still warming up to the technique of this. Yeah, you can have that, Rob. Yeah, add one in. Yeah, Chris has got one there. Scratchy technique, but it did the job. He's flipping over. Rob's just dropped them, but he's still on 2. Keep your 2. Chris is ticking on nice. A good one from Rob there. A little bit of nerves there as the tension starts to get to Chris. I'm feeling quite nervous because I'm commentating in front of Chris Goreham. And they've started arguing. Yeah, you have that. You can have that. Quick, get one more in. Go on. Yeah, I'll give that to Chris. He's got it in one hand. How many did you have, Rob? There's 4 here.
I did 3.
3.
What's on the floor?
No, that's fine. That's just collateral damage. So 3, are you saying, Rob?
I'm having 3, yeah. So you got 4.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I thought you did 4. I don't. Yeah.
Well, Rob's taking it well.
I've already had a selfie with Wes. Don't worry.
VAR, we can check that, but it'll be next week. So for now, Chris, you get a 6. Well done. Do you want to shake hands or something?
Yeah. Do you know what? It's Rob. It's his dad's birthday today. I'm gonna hand the prize over, Rob.
No, I don't. I really. Let Michael have it.
Get your phone out, and you'll both have it.
What do
there you
I
go.
have to do with it?
Well, just you can both have a picture with Wesley. There you go. This is the bit of the show that's always best to watch. There we go. Look at that. If only it was a video as well. We could hear the noise. Chris, you can keep hold of Wesley from there. Well done, everyone. Right, I think let's have a chinwag with these two while Rob feeds Wesley some
what happens if a cow drinks its own milk? Is that?
What a question
Have
that
you ever
is.
thought of
Chris?
It's the sort of question you only ask in International Week, isn't it?
Well, if anyone knows what would happen if a cow drank its own milk,
well, surely it's fine, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's like it's like drinking your own mother's milk. Yeah, but you wouldn't do. You'd do it to a certain age and you'd stop.
you don't have to. There's only a social requirement.
Yeah. Are we still on?
Yeah, it's still on. Yeah, they haven't cut us. YouTube haven't pulled the plug yet, as far as I know, but they might do soon. Let's have a quick chat about your jobs, Rob.
That's what an appraisal. Yeah.
But your journey into the job you do now is quite an interesting one. And I mean, when you sit there doing it, are you like, This is great.
Yeah, obviously, yeah. We both love our job. I mean, I pinch myself sometimes. Other people try and punch me as well. But no, it's a dream job. You know, I grew up as a Norwich fan, and I just getting paid to watch Norwich City and talk about it. You know, same as you. And Chris and Paddy and Dave and all the boys that we work with. You know, it's fantastic. It really is. And yeah, I worked at Anglia TV, did stuff behind the camera, and then between him and Gudge, they decided to put a mic under my nose, and the rest is history, as they say.
It is, and it's good history. How well do you two get on, really?
We do get on really, really well. In fact, without knowing it, we've known each other for years. In 1992, when Norwich played an FA Cup semi-final at Hillsborough, we think we were on the same bus at the same time. But I was 10 in 92, nearly 10, and he's a bit older than me.
Yeah.
So I would have seen him as a bigger boy, so I wouldn't have approached him.
No, I was 12,
but,
so it wasn't that much.
Yeah, but you're still a bigger boy to me.
Yeah.
So we were on the same bus at the same time, but it was only about 20 years later that we actually properly worked together, and we spent a lot of time together because you have to, as you do with Paddy, when you're travelling distance in the car. So yeah, you have to get on, and we do.
I'm glad you brought up the car journeys. Who makes the calls, the big calls on the journeys? The music, sweets, because we never have sweets in our car. You have sweets. Where to stop? Where to stop?
Well, you're audio books, aren't you? You do
at
audio
times.
books,
At times.
Yeah. No, we literally do just go for 5 live. Usually Saturday morning, Danny Baker, one of our heroes. We love Danny Baker, so we always listen to him on Saturday morning. We don't really have music. We have a lot of podcasts, BBC podcasts only, of course. Yeah, but there are a few others.
Are you not allowed to listen to it?
No, of course we are. Well, one we love, and I will say we're allowed to say this because it's a great podcast. It's the Quickly Kevin Willie Score. I don't know if you've heard it. All about 90s football. We religiously listen to them. They are exceptional, and it's kind of how we do the scrimmage. Is similar, sort of just off the wall, have a bit of a laugh, not take it too seriously. So yeah, we listen to that, but then we'll do other stupid things like really boring stuff. Go on.
Oh yes, what was the last away game? But was it coming back from Barnsley? Yeah, Barnsley. I was driving at this point. Rob had his phone out and he tested me on how many of the England-Italian 90 World Cup squad I could name.
No, we didn't just do England. We did
then we went through the rest.
I
forgot.
Every squad.
I haven't slept since because I forgot Neil Webb.
Oh. Yeah. So we went. Honestly,
you're not the only one.
He did really well with England, and we went through all the teams.
United
Yugoslavia,
Arab Emirates.
Yeah, we did them all, and he knew about 3 of the United Arab Emirates.
No, Cameroon. I was alright with Cameroon.
How old were you? About 7.
8.
Yeah. Wow. So he did well, but Cameroon he did well, and yeah, that was a fun.
But one fun fact about us in the car, and I'm proud of the fact, is that we have a fast food ban on away games. Ban.
A fast food ban. You eat no fast food.
Fast food.
So we obviously,
so we have the opposite, by the way.
Choice is limited at motorway service stations, as Norwich supporters know. So we just say. Any well-known fried chicken establishments or well-known Golden Arches burger establishments we don't touch, and we haven't for 2 seasons so far. Right? 2 seasons. Wow. So we try and find somewhere that's we think Chinese is all right and fish and chips is all right. We say that doesn't count as fast food because
not like burgers and all chicken. But and 2 other things is once in the very early days when we were doing it. We saw with McVeigh. This, you know what I'm going to say.
Favourite story.
This is brilliant, and now you'll blow your mind.
You can file this under like before they were famous.
Mac is like, oh look, it's Caroline Flack, and it's Caroline Flack, who back then was sort of a run-of-the-mill TV presenter.
But tell them who she was with.
But she was with Harry Styles because it was when they were dating. So now I would literally, because I'm a big Harry Styles fan, as you know, I love One Direction as well. Big fan. Love them. Great, brilliant singles. I'd be over there like a shot with the selfie for Harry Styles. But of course, then you're like, I don't know who he is. He's in X Factor.
It was a good job Macca was there because I wouldn't have recognised him. But they were there.
Have we
together.
spotted any other celebrity?
Do you know what? On the same trip on the way back at the same service station, we saw Terry Pratchett.
That's right.
Coffee.
God rest him.
We did. You do. You often.
He was in Starbucks.
And there was one time where we stopped at the Birchanger services, and you recognised somebody off The Only Way Is Essex, and I wasn't very impressed.
I can't remember. Well, I
didn't know it was.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I don't care about Only Way Is Essex, so that's fine. How much, Chris, do you miss Neil Adams' quiz questions in the car journeys?
I wasn't very good at them, so I do and I don't. I mean, I don't know where he got them from. My favourite one ever was he made me go through the alphabet and think of the record Premier League goal scorer for every letter. So I think of the person whose name begins with A has got the most Premier League goals. The person with like Bergkamp, and then you'd be like, what you'd get as far. By the time I got to Tony Yeboah, I was. No, it's Yakubu. That's sort of how the relationship ended. And then, of course, he got a proper job in football. So it shows what I know.
Top stuff, gents. Let's Let's keep your questions coming in. Let's have a quick look in what we've got here. Okay, Mark Davis has got a good one. I'm going to do this bit first because this is the check of what the current championship picture looks like. If Sean is ready, you ready with that? Let's have a look then. And the slides are there if you want to see them, gents. Results. Fulham blew a 2-goal lead in their West London derby while Birmingham picked up a vital win over Hull. Preston continued their good form. But Aston Villa slipped up for the second successive time. Meanwhile, Neil Warnock is probably still fuming over the game, their game at injury hit Derby being postponed due to Sunday's wintry conditions. Thankfully, the Rams club shop was still open and able to be attended to. At the top of the table, Wolves, and they are up there and they are on the brink, while Cardiff and Derby will have to play catch-up. Villa are losing ground, and with Millwall in scintillating form, there are now 4 sides outside the top 6, yet within 4 points of breaking into it. Ipswich are clinging on to their place in the top half of the table. At the bottom, that's because the Canaries are now just 2 goals behind their nearest and dearest, having overtaken Leeds at the weekend. Reading and Barnsley will both be looking nervously at Birmingham's form, while Sunderland are now in danger of being cut adrift. It is an international break this weekend, of course, but come the following weekend, it is Easter time, which means most clubs return to action on Good Friday. The game at Carrow Road should be a cracker, while Wolves trip to Middlesbrough, and both fixtures on Easter Saturday should prove good entertainment. Everyone then returns to action either come Easter Monday or the following Tuesday night. The former sees Norwich head to QPR. Funny old season, isn't it, the Championship? Enjoyed it?
Well, I love my job and I love watching Norwich every week, but I wouldn't say I've enjoyed. Well, no, I haven't really. I love watching Norwich every week and I love football, etc., etc. But it's not been a classic, has it, in terms of Norwich? We're a bit up and down, and the high points will be losing at Chelsea and Arsenal, which sounds a bit bad. We lost on penalties at Chelsea, lost in the cup at Arsenal, but and obviously the goal against Ipswich. I mean, we beat them away, that was good, but it's not one I'll remember for a long time this season. But it is rebuilding, the old buzz phrase. So it's kind of like the bigger picture is, all right, Daniel Farke, I think, is a good manager, and I think that the signs are there that he's going to get it right.
Do you have a soft spot for anyone in the division other than Norwich, Chris?
Oh, there are a lot of teams in the Championship who are all sort of, you just think, who are we playing this week? And there's a lot of similar teams in there. So it's difficult at the moment, isn't it? Millwall we enjoy, don't we? We enjoy going to Millwall because we always have fish and chips and the calf opposite before we start. Millwall we always enjoy going there.
People, aren't they? The fans.
Yeah,
are great.
And I always enjoy trips to Fulham as well, even though we never win there. And I shouldn't enjoy going to Fulham. It's just got something about it. So, the rest of them you can. It's the Championship.
I don't mind. I shouldn't say this, but I don't mind Villa as well, simply because Villa Park, and that's my first big ground I went to as a kid for the '89 semi. So just always when I get there, I think about when me and my dad got there, and you see the Victorian stand, and like my dad said, right, Carrow Road's great, but this is it. Now we're in a massive ground, so. I don't necessarily love the club Villa, but I just love Villa Park, so that's another club I enjoy going to.
Barnsley away was enjoyable as well. There's something about that place that I really like going to.
Generally Norwich doing quite well, although maybe not in recent years. Let's have a look. A few people getting very excited about summer. John Davies says it's getting to the summer now. Sunny thingamajig. So that's good. Mark Davies, who's joining us in the Championship next season? I.e., who's coming down for the Premier League?
Good question. Yeah, well, I hope it's... Well, I don't really want to go to Swansea. Palace... I don't really want to go there, but I think they will come down.
West Brom have gone, haven't they?
I hope Stoke stay up.
I want Stoke to stay up because of Paul Lambert, and I want Southampton to stay up because I think if they stay up in the Premier League, there's more chance of Harrison Reed coming to us permanently. I think from a Norwich point of view, if Southampton go down, they will want Harrison Reed to play for them in the Championship. So for that reason, come on the Saints, I want them to stay up.
Love that. Chris Gates, which Premier League team do you think Madison will go to where he can play every week with a virtually free role? Answer, probably none. It's a fair point.
This is it. This is why it's such an interesting thing, what happens to Madison next, because the sort of player that he is, I don't know how many Premier League teams he would get into now playing in that position. Maybe he just would benefit from another season playing in the Championship.
We had Mick Maguire, the Norwich former hero.
Brilliant, especially on Madison.
And he's Greg Downs' best ever player he played with, which is a good fact. But yeah, Mick said, as an agent, he said I would advise him to stay, and that's quite big from an agent saying that, because usually they want the 5% or 10% or whatever it is,
And that's why it's so fascinating, because the football is littered with players who you've seen at the age of 19, 20, 21 and thought, this boy's got it. I always call it the David Bentley example, where you see him not just when he was with Norwich, but when he went back to Arsenal, when played for Blackburn, went to Tottenham. You thought, well, this is David Beckham's heir. When Beckham goes, it's going to be Bentley all the way. And he retired at the age of 28, 29, fed up with football. So it's really important from James Madison, his personal point of view, that he makes a wise move next, whether that's with Norwich or not.
Time is rapidly racing away. Joachim Broberg says maybe sign Gustav Engvall, Bristol City. Good in the box, guarantees goals. I'll take your word for it, Joachim. Yeah, possibly.
We haven't heard of all these players though, but sounds good.
Why not? Chris Hansen says this is the best crossover since the Tribbles made Kirk pop up in Deep Space Nine. I mean, there's a lot of references I don't get there.
City was on Rainbow.
Did that really happen?
Check it on YouTube. City was once on Rainbow.
I don't think I could have coped with that. Carl Mitchelson says in order player of the season, Madison, Gunn, Hanley, which I think we're getting a bit of a recurring theme there. Richard Freezer, question for Chris. Everyone loves your commentary on the second goal against Derby, but is there anything you'd have changed or wished you hadn't said during that iconic few minutes?
No, I don't think you can, because it was, I mentioned earlier when we were talking about Brenner and Ipswich, and he was describing that the goal against Ipswich from an Ipswich point of view. Well, it may not have been a vintage piece of broadcasting, but it at least captured the mood on the ground. And Neil Adams was very excited as well, and he was a wise pro footballer who'd been there, seen it, and done it. And when he got carried away by that moment, you knew you were watching something special. So I'll stand by it, even if it is embarrassing to listen to out of context.
It's not embarrassing.
Well, not for you, it is.
No, it's brilliant. I love it.
I always remember being at Lowestoft Town that day, covering a game. Yeah. So there we go. Now, we have got no game to preview, so let's be honest, no one really cares about the in-depth looking at a bunch of international friendlies. So, with a lot of talk about the possible summer departures, Alex Tetty, Wesley Moolahan and Norwich City legends taking on Inter forever this summer, I thought we'd get Chris and Rob to give us their all-time Norwich City's 11s. I'm quite looking forward to this. So, Chris first. So, Sean, good Sean, he shouted at me, that's what I like. Chris, take us through your 12.
Well, I've got Gunn in goal. You can have whichever gun you want. But for me, I had Brian in mind when I did. And I think the trouble with these things is you tend to go back to the players that you first saw, and looking at that's pretty much what this team is. So I've got Gunn in goal, back four and I've limited it to players that I've seen play. Obviously Martin Peters, Dave Stringer, but I didn't see them play. I'm too young, so I've gone for that. That's the criteria I employed. Ian Culverhouse, the right back, Andy Linnigan and Steve Bruce, the centre backs, Mark Bowen, the left back, Townsend and Crook playing in the centre of midfield. I've gone Dale Gordon right wing, because he's my favourite ever player. I've got Chris Sutton and Dean Ashton up front, and I could not choose, and I know it's not really in the spirit of it, but Edie and Huckabee, I could not choose. I wanted to play them. If they're going to be in the team, they've got to play in that position. So in my team, they're going to have a bit of a rotation. One's going to play 1 week, one's going to play the other, because I cannot choose them.
Rob's not having that. He was already shaking his head.
He's got Edie playing on the right. Out of position. So at least I've got him in the right position.
There is that absolutely as well. And you said a nice little line before we came on air about Andy Linnigan.
Andy Linnigan is a player that people forget about, and he scored the winner in the FA Cup final, which of course took Norwich into Europe. But more importantly than that, how good a player was he? Well, he was signed from Norwich by George Graham's Arsenal, and when people look back at great defences and people who knew what they were doing, they talk about George Graham's Arsenal. So if he was good enough to even play a bit part for them, I think that shows what a good player Norwich had in Andy Linnigan. And he left just before Mike Walker came in and things got really good. So I think he is often forgotten about in Norwich City history. But because he was playing when I first started going, always got a great fondness for him. And apparently he's now a plumber.
Is he really?
Apparently so.
I bet he's a brilliant plumber as well.
He's got on his van, average footballer, brilliant plumber or something like that.
Really?
Supposedly. I don't know if that's true.
I bet he's good at plugging all those gaps. So I did, when I set this task, I did wonder if you'd both, because there was a suggestion, I think, when the snow came, that your 11s were going to be exactly the same. So I wasn't sure about all this colluding. But thankfully there are a few differences, mainly because I don't think Chris would have ever picked Chris Sutton as one of his favourite all-time Norwich City centre-backs. But away you go, Rob.
I just wanted to get Sutty in there because I struggled up front. So yeah, I've gone Gunn, Bowen, Culverhouse. That pretty much picks itself for all Norwich fans. I've gone John Newsom because I thought he was excellent, and another one that was kind of sold by Chase when we had to cash in a bit on him. I'll put Sutton at centre-half because my dad always says, I'll tell you what, he was a better centre-half than centre-forward, which is a bold move. So. It was a bold move.
Did your dad know which way we were kicking?
It's a bold move. I nearly put Dion there, actually, because Dion was brilliant as a centre-half for us as well. But anyway, I just wanted to get Sutton in. Townsend and Crook agree with Chris, And I've gone for players that I've seen, so I've gone with that. Townsend I thought was absolutely brilliant, and I once saw him in home base when I was a kid, and he was really nice, so that was nice. Hucks and Eadie, I've spoke to Darren Eadie this week, and he said he's happy to play on the right, so that's fine. You've got to have Hucks in there. He's, you know, just a phenomenon. Ashton, agree with Chris, you know, one of the best players I've ever seen in a Norwich shirt. I thought he was unbelievable, and he's a bloody nice bloke. I'm allowed to say that? Bloody nice bloke as well. And Flecky, one of my heroes. Disco is my favourite ever player as well.
And he's not in there.
He's not. He's on the bench. He's my first sub I'd use, but, you know, Disco would understand. I've had a word with him. But you've got to have Flecky in there.
You know, Craig Bellamy is the one. I nearly put up front. As well. I thought Sutton and Bellamy would have been some front.
Ewan's a big one for
Ewan
me.
would have been great.
I mean, up front, you're struggling there, really, aren't you?
Yeah. Cracking stuff. Gents, thank you so much for filling those in. Much appreciated. Thank you for all your questions too. Two more questions to end the show on, and they're very quick ones. A key man for the rest of the season, and where are Norwich going to finish?
I think that's a good question. All right, I'll go Dennis Sobrani, because we need a striker. He's signed permanently. Can he fill those shoes that we need? Because Nelson's probably not going to be here. Well, I don't know. He might be here next season, but he's not really the favourite amongst everyone, is he? So I think he might move on. Perhaps Dennis needs to step into those boots and start scoring some goals.
James Madison's agent/advisor, because what they're saying to him over the next couple of months is going to play a big role in how we're feeling going into next season.
So we're going to finish in the top half above Ipswich.
I don't know. I'm sorry.
He doesn't care. He doesn't care.
It is a bit like that. It's kind of like, yeah, we might, but I just think it's just going to be win one, lose one, draw one, and it's going to be a bit of a fizzle. What we can do, and we were looking at it the other day, Chris and I, on a trip, we can sort of mess a few teams up. We've got Villa, we've got Fulham. You know, we've got some teams that are up there.
Preston,
although it's going to be a mid-table finish, we actually haven't got that many dead rubbers now.
No.
If you look at it, most of the games, even going down to Sheffield Wednesday on the last day of the season, I know they've pulled away from danger a little bit, but there could be something on that.
Sunderland as well.
You know, most of the games Norwich have got between now and the end of the season do mean something, so that is going to make it interesting.
That is the perfect way to end tonight's show. That is it from us. Remember, you can catch this show and all our superb Norwich City content over at the PinkUn Facebook and YouTube feeds, but of course, first and foremost, PinkUn.com. A big thank you to all the crew, which is basically Sean. To Chris and Rob, what a joy to have you guys on at the same time. And to have you on the tour. Really appreciate it. We'll do it again. Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, well done, Wesley Moolahan, for the milk. Thanks to everyone here at the Woolpack, and of course to you guys for watching, getting in touch and getting involved. Remember to listen to The Scrimmage on BBC Radio Norfolk every Thursday evening, and Canary Call after each Norwich City match.
Don't worry about the commentary.
And then the commentary, unless you're at the game. And of course, PinkUn.com will keep you up to date with what is happening with Norwich's players as they cope with the international break before we get back on the horse for Easter and the final push. The PinkUn show is set to return again next Wednesday, again here at the Woolpack on Golden Ball Street in the centre of Norwich. We'll be live with you from the usual time at 7 p.m. If, as always, you're nearby, come and join us for a pint, or you can watch us live on Facebook or at PinkUn.com, and we'll see you then. Until then, here's to a karting being the new football for one weekend at least. Thanks, gents. Thanks, everyone. I cannot wait. Good night.